Hey, welcome back to Law and Chill. My name's Pete. I'm a post-grad law student. I'm awaiting to take the bar. Today we're going to be watching a video in which a law student actually committed a crime. This is a very interesting video. I'm going to be interrupting it every now and then to give my perspective. As a law grad myself, I'm in a very similar stage of life as to both the victims and the person who committed the crime. So very interesting to me to watch this case. I already watched the video as I'm recording this part. Yeah, it was a very interesting case. There's a lot of cool things in there. The channel name that posted this is Explore With Us. I highly suggest that you check out this channel. They make great content. They gather these great videos and well thought out investigations. They get good assessments. They get good analysis in there. I highly recommend you check it out. They also focus a lot on like body language and stuff like that. I'm probably going to be cutting out most of that on this video. So if you're interested in that, check them out as well. Link will be in the description. That said, let's jump into it. If you guys have your coffee, I got mine right here. Enjoy the show.
When Lauren Giddings, a recent graduate from law school, goes missing, the town of Macon, Georgia halts to a stop as her friends and family try desperately to find her. But within hours, an unlikely suspect emerges, not because of a plethora of evidence, but because of his own freak out on air while cameras are rolling. The majority of the following photos, videos, and more have never been seen before. 27-year-old Lauren Giddings was reported missing on June 30th, 2011, but by then she had already been gone for 4 days. She was a student in Mercer Law who just graduated the month prior. At the time of her disappearance, she was preparing to take the bar exam, and then she would have become a defense attorney. But tragically, she never got the chance.
Yo, off the rip, that hit so close to home. I just graduated. I'm currently studying to take the bar exam and become an attorney. And this sucks.
Little did she know, a killer had been watching her every move. The only hint that something had been wrong was one incident, but one that she had easily dismissed. Lauren told her sister, Caitlin Wheeler, that after returning to her apartment following a trip, she thought that some of her things had been moved around, as though someone had been in there while she was gone. But she had no proof, just a feeling, and she eventually dismissed it. But that would prove to be a grave mistake. The summer of her graduation, Lauren's sister got married, and she took a few weeks off to spend time with her loved ones. But following the wedding, Lauren told her family and friends that she would be studying non-stop for the bar to make up for the lost time. With this in mind, they weren't too concerned when they didn't hear from her for a few days. But the days stretched on, and still there were no calls, emails, or answered texts. Her sister was the first one to realize something was terribly wrong. On June 29th, she reached out to Lauren's friends at Mercer and began to piece together that not only had no one heard from her, but they also hadn't seen her in days. What is especially chilling is that according to her calendar, Lauren was due to move out from her apartment the next day, on June 30th. Her car was still parked in her parking space, and after Lauren's friends heard from her sister, they decided to look for her and search her apartment. Her friends got in using a key they knew she kept in a white glass vase on a table outside her door. Checking her computer, they uncovered an email she sent revealing that she thought someone had tried to break into her apartment on the Thursday night before she vanished. Eerily, her ID and keys, including the other apartment key, were all inside, as though Lauren had come home and locked the door behind her, and then vanished. Lauren's family didn't live nearby, so her father drove that night to Macon to speak to police, and a missing persons report was officially filed for Lauren 4 days after she was last heard from. There were no witnesses. It was just a matter of interviewing anybody who lived at that apartment complex, or anyone who knew Lauren, with the hope of finding someone who knew what could have happened to her. Little did the police know, the case would have its prime suspect in only 12 hours of investigating. One of her friends, Ashley Morehouse, gave an emotional account to an officer about the last time she saw Lauren.
When was the last time you've actually physically seen Lauren?
It would be early Saturday morning at about 4 a.m. That Friday night, we went out to the bar, and she came back to my boyfriend's place to stay for the evening.
Did you see Lauren when you woke up that morning?
No.
You're just assuming she was there?
Yes.
Did you ever see her or talk to her again?
No.
Ashley was one of the first people who alerted the authorities to Lauren's disappearance. Lauren's next-door neighbor and law school classmate, 25-year-old Stephen McDaniel, also spoke briefly with an officer.
How long have you lived next to Lauren?
Since I started law school back in, it'd be August of '08, I think.
When was the last time you think you seen Lauren?
It was either last week or the week before that.
Okay. Is there anything that you could tell me today or add to your statement that could help me locate Lauren?
I can't think of anything.
Stephen, along with Lauren's other neighbors and friends, were then asked to go to the police station to give their statements. As the two had lived side by side for years, Stephen was the perfect person to ask if he had heard or seen anything that may be helpful to the case.
I just want to clarify some things about your statement. I asked you to come down here today because you're Lauren's next door neighbor, right?
Yeah.
And you told me in your statement that you've been home all week, right? All weekend? Mm-hmm. Has anybody come and stay, visit you while you were home?
No.
You didn't have no friends over?
Mm-mm.
Anybody see you this weekend that you've been home?
I don't know.
I had asked you in your statement because I've asked everyone that's living in that lives in that apartment complex if it would be all right for us to search their apartment, give me consent to search.
Yeah.
I'm asking that I would be there and that no one's going to search your apartment without you being present, right? Mm-hmm. And in your statement, you stated that.
Okay, I want to stop there real quick to talk about what he just said. He's basically asking for permission to go inside his apartment without a warrant. They can't do that as long as you consent. As a law student, this guy should know that, and he should know that assuming that this is the suspect, he should refuse it. This is interesting because we're getting like a weird perspective of a law student committing a crime, so he should know better than most people. It's going to be very interesting to see how he tackles the police tactics here.
You didn't want me to do that?
I've got several firearms that I own.
It isn't terribly surprising to hear that a law student would refuse to consent to search. However, what is unusual is that Stephen would continue to consent to police interviews without legal representation.
That's true. Yeah, the first thing that he should have done is shut the fuck up. I'm assuming he probably is the suspect. Yeah, honestly, even if you didn't do it, it's in your best interest to get legal representation. Like, this is just, law students should know this. Like, I don't know what's happening here.
And I don't want other people.
Well, how many firearms do you have?
I've got a semi-automatic rifle, and then I've got 2 handguns as well.
Well, you understand that we're trying to locate Lauren. She's missing. And you stated that you're willing to do anything to help me.
If I can help, I will, but...
By helping me, I've asked everyone there, and everyone in the apartment complex has agreed, except you.
It's the lawyer in me, I suppose. I mean, what can I say? I just
needed to know.
You don't have to say anything. You can just say no. Like, I understand that he's trying to, like, not raise suspicions on himself, but you're a law student. You know your rights. Use them. Like, to be fair, you shouldn't be talking to him, period. You should know that by now. I don't know. Now I feel like I'm defending him like he's my client. Fuck this guy, honestly. Like, I don't know what to say.
No, the reasoning behind you not doing it, you just are worried that I'm going to mess with your firearms if you're standing there?
Nah, I'm always just protective of my space.
Did you hurt your nose or something?
Where?
The red mark on your nose right there. How'd you get that red mark on your nose?
Is it a mirror?
Yeah, I'll show you. How'd you get this mark down here on your chin?
Place I've been picking at.
So you don't want me looking in your apartment at all?
After some convincing, the officer eventually inspected Stephen's apartment, looking for any sign of Lauren. Although they didn't find her, they began to notice Stephen's behavior was growing increasingly odd. Police reported that he was sweating profusely and rapidly drank multiple bottles of water. When someone encounters a threat and they go into fight or flight mode, they may experience a dry mouth as well as an increase in sweating.
So, really quick, this is one thing this channel does a lot. As much as I enjoy this channel's videos, I'm not a huge fan of the pseudoscience stuff. Full disclosure, you can take it at face value, you can take it however you want to. I'm not a fan of this part. I think a lot of this, once you already know the results, you can apply a lot of stuff to a narrative and it will make sense, you know?
In fight or flight, the body shifts fluids from one part of the body, like the mouth, to other
This was more normal science, but he'll go into pseudoscience usually, like body language and stuff like that.
parts of the body, such as sweat glands. The police continued to comb through the neighboring apartments, and Stephen hung around the entire time. This was fairly unusual, as there were only a few reasons why Stephen would stay near the apartments all day. Maybe he was bored and had nothing else to do, but maybe he had another, more sinister reason to see if the police uncovered anything incriminating. In some cases, the perpetrator remains close to the investigation process due to an obsession, either with the victim or with the crime itself.
I mean, he lives there. I don't think that's that out of the question.
They may at times enjoy the attention the case is receiving, so they stay close to observe the outcomes of their horrific actions. Observing all the attention the case is receiving also often makes the perpetrator feel important, especially if there's some sort of obsession at play. Later, Stephen would claim that he'd been told by the authorities that his apartment wasn't released yet, so he couldn't stay there, but also that he couldn't leave the area. This is just the beginning of a series of well-thought-out contradictions. Either way, it was during this time that he was approached by a reporter who asked him about Lauren. Allegedly, Stephen also commented to other reporters in the area that he wished he'd given Lauren one of his guns so that she could have potentially protected herself.
Yeah, Lauren was my neighbor. We're just trying to find out where she is at this point. I mean, no one has seen her since Saturday. I mean, the last time anyone heard from her was an email that she sent out, and no one's heard from her since.
What kind of person was she? I mean, what did you see her?
I mean, she's as nice as can be. I mean, very personable, very much a people person.
Do you know any enemies she might have had, somebody that might want to hurt her?
No, we don't know where she is. I mean, the only thing we can think is that maybe she went out running and someone snatched her.
It's notable that Stephen speaks mostly using we as the pronoun instead of I. This can be a red flag that the person talking doesn't want the focus to be on them. He may not want to single himself.
Here's what I'm talking about. Because the video is so long, I might fast forward to a lot of these stuff. If you want to watch the full video, link will be in the description. But I don't want to sit here for a full hour on your channel, so I'm going to skip through a little bit of pseudoscience and stuff here and there.
Because we went over. One of her friends had a key. We went inside and tried to see if there was anything amiss, but I mean, she had a door jamb that was sitting right by it, so there was no sign that anyone broke in.
What about in the parking lot area? I know they've been doing a lot of. I think that's where they have recovered the body or whatever they recovered from there.
Body.
This is the exact moment, caught on camera, that Stephen learns Lauren's body has been found, or rather, part of it. Note that Stephen repeats the word body, perhaps trying to. Earlier, as police were searching for any sign of Lauren, they noticed a horrible smell coming from the garbage bins behind Barrister's Hall at Mercer University, across from the apartment complex where she lived. Around 9:40 a.m., they made the nightmarish discovery of a human torso, discarded along with the trash. No matter what Stephen may have been thinking while talking to the reporter, the police had already noticed him hanging around and brought him back to the station to answer a few more questions. Stephen will use his knowledge as a law student to try and wiggle his way out of giving the police any more information. And the result is unsettling, to say the least.
Okay, I'm going to stop it right there. That's bullshit. If he used his knowledge as a law student to get himself out of here, this would be the end of the video. There would be no more interrogation. That would be it. He would just plead the fifth, say, hey, you want to talk to me about this? I want to need a lawyer. Talk to the lawyer. He is not using any of his law student knowledge right here. If he did, the first thing he would do is not sit there at all. But hey, let's see what he does.
You know Detective Patterson, right?
Yes.
Do you remember? Put your hands up here. You remember us talking earlier tonight, right?
Yes.
You remember me earlier in the day?
Yes.
When we came down here and talked a little bit and then we left?
Yes.
Okay. I need to know about this girl right here. You know her?
Yes.
Who is that?
Lauren Giddings.
Does she live next door to you?
Yes.
When's the last time you seen her?
2 or 3 weeks ago.
Okay. Was you friends with Lauren?
Yes.
Look at me when you talk to me, son. Okay? Was you friends with her?
Yes.
Close friends?
We were good.
I mean, y'all were friends, right? Both of
Yes.
y'all are law students. You're studying to be an attorney, right?
Yes.
What kind of law do you want to go into? Criminal law?
Yes.
Civil? Is that what you want to do for a living?
Yes.
Okay. Are you almost finished?
Yes.
Okay. So you don't have too much more to do, right?
No.
All right. Are you going to stay here in Macon?
I don't know.
Did you used to work at the district attorney's office in Macon?
Yes.
Was you on the prosecutor side or the defense side?
Prosecutor.
So you were on our side.
Yes.
Stephen had worked in the DA's office before graduating from law school just 1 month earlier, at the same time as Lauren. At this point, he's not yet taken the bar exam. Stephen may be deliberately answering with one-word answers
So he should have at least the same type of law knowledge that I do. And I know that he is already fucked up by being there. Maybe he didn't pay attention in his criminal procedure classes or constitutional law, but geez, dude, if you really did do what it looks like you did, you done messed up.
And you lived next to Lauren for a long time?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know where she's at tonight?
No.
Hmm?
No.
Have you ever seen her with that dress on?
No.
What is most interesting is the question of why is he still talking with investigators at this point.
Yeah.
Clearly, he understands how to invoke his right to remain silent, and yet he doesn't.
You have no idea
Sure.
where she's at?
No.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know.
Do you even care that no one can find her?
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, do you?
Yes.
Though it's clear suspicion has fallen heavily onto Stephen, he isn't the only person police interviewed. They also spoke to David Van Diver, Lauren's boyfriend.
Yes, sir.
This is your girlfriend.
I understand.
Okay. Because we can't find her. Okay?
Okay.
And we found a body. We don't know if it's her or not.
I just heard that. This
Okay.
coworker told me on the way down.
All right? So I need your help.
You've got it.
Well, somebody knows something. Now I'm asking you, do you know anybody that she might been seeing besides you?
This is commonly called the wedge driving. It's similar to the prisoner's dilemma, but is used to elicit an emotional response in a suspect in relation to a victim. The couple appeared to have a long-distance relationship, one that was occasionally on and off. The detective quickly narrows in on this fact, suggesting that the two had problems in their relationship.
So you're telling me the whole time you were going to California, you didn't call her, check in with her, nothing?
No.
Then you land in Atlanta and just go back to your apartment or a house, wherever you live in Atlanta, and you didn't even call her and tell her you were home or
This guy's
anything?
so much older
No,
than
if,
her.
if you look at the email she sent me Saturday night, and this has been, you talked about me not being married and all this stuff. When girls start to talk about commitment stuff, the email she sent me at 10:13 Saturday night started off, I literally read it while I was in the rental car, and I saw the first line. It goes, I just had an uncomfortable or awkward conversation with Garen, and I thought it was going to lead into a whole, he wants to know when y'all are getting married, stuff like that. So I just put it down. I'm just like, I'm not ready for that, and I put the phone down.
Do you have a key to her apartment?
No, sir. No, sir. In fact,
Did she?
there was a running joke, if you will, that I came down here, I think it was summer of 2010, give or take. There was some band thing she wanted me to come down for. Came down, we all went out, had a great time, we got separated.
For the record, before he keeps going, even though this person, as far as I know, he's not the actual suspect, or he probably didn't do it because he's not in the thumbnail. He shouldn't be talking to the police either at this point because they're clearly talking to him like a suspect. So even if you didn't do it, I get that you want to help and you want to clear your name, but you could potentially end up getting a cause for no reason. Like, there's plenty of people who have been incarcerated who did not commit crimes. Look up the Innocence Project, and yeah, he should also have an attorney present during this discussion.
Afraid of walking back, and she got back to her apartment before I did, and I banged on the door, and she was asleep. And and the joke was, apparently I was the only one of her friends that did not know where that key was. I know where it is now.
Well, where
Back to
is it
Atlanta.
now?
Where's the key?
Yeah.
She keeps the key right there on the, it's a round table, if I recall, patio furniture. It's like a little ceramic thing.
Oh.
And you don't know anybody that might want to harm her?
No, sir.
Are you worried about that being her?
Absolutely.
Eventually, David Van Diver is cleared of any suspicion and allowed to leave the police station. Stephen, on the other hand, has only managed to make himself appear more suspicious. The detective now reveals some of the reasons that they're focusing their attention on him.
You said you didn't have any other cars, right?
Right.
Well, why would everybody you went to school with for the last 3 and 4 years said that you own another car other than that Geo Prism? Everybody I've talked to, all your friends you were in school with, people that you worked at the district attorney's office with said you have other cars other than that car. And you're gonna sit here today and tell me you don't have another car?
I don't.
Well, where's it at?
I don't have one.
You never had another car besides that Geo Prism.
No.
So if I call your granddaddy, he's gonna tell me that you only have one car.
Yes.
What's his phone number?
I don't know.
Yeah, you do, because I already have his number. You don't know his phone number?
No.
I mean, you seriously can't help us out.
His number is in my cell phone.
That's a start. Where's your cell phone?
At the apartment.
In your apartment?
One of the reasons the detectives are pressing Stephen about having another car is the security footage caught outside the apartment building where he and Lauren lived. It's blurry, so it's unclear exactly who is in the footage, but the detectives clearly suspect that it might be Lauren's killer.
What's up with the pair of underwear that was in your apartment? That was like a mask. It was cut out like a mask. You cut underwear out to look like a mask?
No.
What do you think happened to her?
I don't know what type of mask this cop's using, but that ain't look like no mask to me.
I think someone took her.
Now, when confronted, Stephen gives the same answer he told the reporter earlier, but his voice has shifted dramatically into a flat tone, devoid of all emotion.
Well, you know there was a body found in the trash can next to the apartments.
Yes.
You do know that. And it's a female, white female's body. Right there. Right next to y'all's apartment. Feet from her apartment. We don't know 100% sure it's Lauren, but we're pretty confident it is. I mean, who would do something to somebody and throw them in a trash can?
I don't know.
I'm asking for your advice or your observation. Who in your complex would do something like that? You lived over there for 3 years. Tonight's the first night I think I've ever been over there.
By asking the suspect to speculate as to the narrative of the crime, the investigator is looking for any facts, especially inconsistent or unpublicized facts, that might create an opening for more direct lines of questioning.
In your expert opinion, of all your knowledge of going through law school and all that, who in that complex do I need to talk to?
Me, personally, the way I would answer that question is everybody except me.
I don't know.
Why are you acting like this? I need to know. Why all of a sudden you're acting like this?
I I don't understand.
Okay. Earlier today, we sat here and talked. But now you're acting like you don't know what's going on. I mean, did something happen or something to you? I mean, why are you shutting down? Why are you not talking to me?
I don't know.
You don't know? Are you scared?
No.
Hmm?
I mean, you're not scared, are you?
You baby, you gonna poop your pants? You gonna need a little diaper change? Okay.
Stephen's shift in behavior has been so abrupt, the police decide to speak to one of his friends, David Whitmire, to get a better understanding of who Stephen is. David lived across the street from the apartment complex where Lauren and Stephen lived, and also attended the same classes, so he knows them both.
Did you know this Lauren's next door neighbor, Stephen
Very
McDaniel?
well. Very well. You know, Stephen could stay in there a long time and not come back out. And I would like...
Just stay in his house, his apartment for days?
Yeah. And I would say, you know, and I don't know, like adopting a puppy or something. I'd say, Stephen, and I also didn't always want to eat alone, so I'd say, let's go down to 5 Guys.
All this information does is tell investigators that Stephen was likely a loner and possibly a recluse. This is important information for detectives because oftentimes individuals who commit these horrific murders are socially isolated. It also means that he was probably home at the time that Lauren was attacked.
Yeah, that information is fair enough. If he's a recluse, he doesn't go out, he's still there, he lives right next door. Should have been there when whatever happened. Considering they found just a torso, means somebody probably cut up a body. It's gotta make noise. Yeah.
Since none of his tactics are working so far, the detective tries something new, attempting to be more aggressive in the hopes this will get Stephen to say something besides, I don't know. He brings up Lauren's mother and asks what he should tell her about her daughter's disappearance.
And you want me to sit there and tell him that you don't know? Is that what you want me to tell him? Because you're all over the news. You sure stood out there and ran your mouth to the news media. But now you're going to get out here and you don't know. You know. You're just a sorry piece of shit.
By shifting to a more aggressive stance, it's apparent that the Reed method is not working.
I respect
This
it,
also
though.
signifies that the investigator has lost control of the interrogation.
True.
The detective is likely taking his frustrations about the case out on Stephen, rather than stopping to think about what would be the best approach to get him to talk. He may be trying to rile Stephen.
Yeah, this is actually interesting because, and not just because of the pseudoscience behind it, but oftentimes a lot of the things that make cases go sour and make people lose cases for technicalities is when police get frustrated during interrogations, they'll slip up. They'll go over some of your rights, like not explain something thoroughly to you. They'll lie to you in a way, like it could lead to some sort of deception. Maybe you ask for an attorney, they ignore the question. When police start getting frustrated and start pushing and pushing and pushing, they tend to make mistakes. And the bad side of that, depending on how or not you want to see this, is it could make a case fall. So you don't want that to happen. It's very important that the police keep it to a professional matter as much as possible.
For half an hour, the first detective struggles to get any response from Stephen. So another officer enters the room to change up the dynamic.
Why would you not be honest with me?
I am being honest.
Stephen, it just doesn't feel like it, buddy. You know, I get the sense that there's something weighing heavy on your heart right now. And it's breaking you down. And you feel bad about it. I can tell you haven't slept much, have you, in the last few days, have you?
No.
Like something's weighing on your mind, ain't it?
We were looking for Lauren.
You started looking for Lauren yesterday.
Yes.
But you haven't slept in several days, have you?
Yes.
You have?
Yes.
Earlier when I talked to you, you said you hadn't slept in days, that this morning was the first time you was able to get any sleep, was this morning, for a little bit.
That's actually a very smart line of questioning. Lawyers will do this all the time during questioning turns. He just got him to contradict himself. I got to stick your finger in that little wound and Keep spinning until you see how much you can unravel. This is very good questioning from the detective.
No.
Yes, that's what you said.
Uh-huh.
That's what you told me.
Now what?
So I asked you, well, if you haven't been able to sleep in several days, what have you been doing? Studying? And you said, yeah, studying. You don't remember that?
No.
By pointing out Stephen's inconsistent statements, the detective is trying to shake his confidence and make him doubt himself. If Stephen feels like he's making a lot of mistakes, that will likely increase his stress, which in turn could cause him to make more mistakes.
What I want you to do, and I'm going to ask you this question. I want you to describe to me how you feel right now.
Wow. Nice question.
You don't know how to answer that with a yes or no, do you?
I don't know what's going on.
This pretty little girl right here, your neighbor, she's missing.
I know.
You went looking for her last night.
Yes.
Did you hurt Lauren?
No.
Stephen, did you hurt Lauren?
No.
When is the last time you've seen Lauren alive?
I can't recall.
I mean, if that's Lauren's, we haven't positively identified it.
But like his graduation, because once it was all over with, then we didn't like.
And that was in May
That was
2011. So you hadn't seen her like around the apartment complex, coming and going, or anything like that?
No, but I would, from time to time, I would ask. I'd notice her car was either gone or in a different parking place. Actually, I kept up with them a lot because I had to always walk I had to look at everybody's car and everybody's apartment as I walked to class. So I kept up too. But I would ask him, what's Lauren doing? And, generally it were nondescript responses about, well, I think she went out of town, or I think this.
Did Stephen ever tell you, what his relationship was with Lauren? I mean, he never said that, referred to her as his girlfriend or anything. He just, that's his neighbor and a classmate? Or?
Yeah, that was it. I didn't presume anything, and Lauren had a long-term steady boyfriend.
You have another vehicle.
No, I don't.
So your grandfather's a liar. Is that what you're saying?
I ain't calling him in a
You're calling your
truther.
grandfather a liar. I just talked to him, and he said you own another car.
I don't.
Stephen, we're telling way too many lies in here.
So you're telling me they're lying?
You're willing to tell me that you're a virgin and that you told me you jack off the porn on the internet, but you don't want to admit to having another car? That makes me think you got something to hide, Stephen. That concerns me. You tell me things that most people wouldn't tell somebody else, but yet you lie about something simple.
Why are you
about
trying to
having
hide
another
that you
car.
have another car? What's the big deal?
I don't have.
I got 3 cars.
You do. You do.
No, I don't.
It's not at your
What
house.
happened to it?
I've never had another car.
That's the only car you ever had in Macon.
Yes.
Okay, let me go talk to him again, because that's not what he's saying.
The footage would turn out not to be the linchpin needed to solve this case, as it doesn't actually capture any evidence used to narrow down Lauren's killer. Instead, it's the killer's own oversights which will catch them up in the end.
Stephen, what happened to Lauren?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
You like her, don't you?
She's my friend.
Did you ever think about having sex with her?
No.
You never tried to talk to her on a dating level?
No.
Let me go talk. They got his grandfather. Let me go talk, make sure that he owns another car, because he's telling us he doesn't. Be right back.
So you're telling me
Yeah, I like the pink polo officer's interrogation technique a lot better. I feel like he's a lot closer to breaking through, because everything else is direct evidence. You can use that against them if you have anything for that video regarding the car. But if you're trying to get a confession, which at this point Steven clearly shut down on his right, so he doesn't care. So he very likely could confess. This is the way to do it. It's a more Methodical? I don't know what the word is. My primary language is Spanish, in case you didn't know this, so I apologize. But yeah, I very much more like this approach than what the other detectives are doing.
Hey, see that pretty girl right there?
Yes.
You telling me you looked at a pretty girl like that and you never once thought, ever, man, she looks good. You never thought that?
That's a smart question, dude.
I don't understand.
That's a smart question. That's probably the best answer he can give because there's no right answer. If you say yeah, he's gonna keep pushing. If you say no, he's gonna call you out on your lies. So it's like it's a catch-22. It's interesting. A good question.
Do you talk to Steven? Email to email?
Little brief emails.
Is there anything on there discussing about Lauren?
No, there was only time he ever mentioned Lauren in that other than like this, like, have you seen Lauren lately? Well, I would ask him that sometimes. There was this one experience where Lauren's name came up, and he said, boy, you should have been there. He said, Lauren really put on a show. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, she was so drunk. And then he described how she had been out there dancing with some other girl and had fallen and apparently was not wearing any underwear or very skimpy underwear like they wear nowadays, and apparently flashed most of the room purely accidentally.
I understand.
And he that's the only thing I've ever heard related.
Interesting. Because now, I don't know what order these interviews were, but the second you have that confession from his friend, you can use that against him now to go back on the statement that he just made that he never found her attractive or sexual thoughts about her. Very interesting. The plot thickened.
The officers appear to have found a potential motive for Stephen to want to hurt Lauren. The speculation that perhaps he had a romantic interest in her wasn't completely misplaced. A friend of Lauren's would later come forward to share that Stephen had asked her out on a date, and Lauren turned him down.
Aww.
This friend also said that he didn't think Stephen had a single bad bone in his body and was always helpful and kind, even helping one night to make sure when Lauren came home from the bar intoxicated that she got into her apartment okay. However, this friend eventually admitted that Stephen continually asked her out on dates and even allegedly weirded her out with his attention. Though he doesn't give much away during the interview, posts that Stephen made online reveal he actually thought about dating and relationships a lot. The posts were confirmed to be penned by Stephen because although he uses the nickname SOL, or Son of Liberty, to make the online comments on a few different forums, SOL wrote that they were a law student in Macon. If that wasn't enough evidence, Stephen was also known to send politically charged emails to his entire university, which he signed with his name and the moniker Son of Liberty. In one post, Stephen answered another user's comment with, "Ha, you won't find any pictures like that in my home because I don't have a girlfriend. I just made myself sad." Later, in a post from February 2010, he wrote, "The problem with being a social recluse with a fundamental disability to connect on a romantic level is that we want so much to find that one special person with whom we want to grow old with, raise children with, spend the rest of our lives with, and yet we're incapable of going out and finding her." As it reaches midnight, the detective's frustration begins to show. But even though his answers don't change, the cracks are beginning to show in Stephen's robotic answers.
You knew that there was blood in that apartment.
No.
Yes, you did, Stephen. Yes, you did.
Apartment. Huh.
There's blood in your apartment, Stephen.
It's tough one
That's
to
right.
explain.
There's blood in your apartment.
I was shaving myself. I stubbed my toe against the table. I cut my finger accidentally while cooking. All good answers. Not as good as not talking. Probably better than whatever he's about to say.
Stephen, this is hard, buddy. I know this is hard. And I can tell it's on you want to let it go. There's blood in your apartment, Stephen. You didn't get it all up. It didn't all come off. You scrubbed and you wiped. But we can tell that. Don't you watch CSI?
Aren't you a law student?
Yeah, we know it.
The blood the police
This is why you shouldn't talk to the police. I almost wanted to confess to this guy, basically. Like, now I feel like this guy's his buddy. He's good. He's good.
claimed they found was in Stephen's bathroom. It's hard to know for sure at this point if they actually have discovered this evidence, given how early it is in the investigation. But since police can lie
Oh, in the bathroom, we can definitely clear that up. 100%.
during interrogations, this could be just another tactic to try and get Stephen.
Although I guess you could use DNA matching. So, not quite. I don't know. That's a toughie. That's a toughie. He shouldn't be talking to them.
To confess something.
Is there a chance? But you do admit that there's a chance that I possibly have evidence to show that you do have something to do with that body, correct?
I don't know.
You don't know?
Blood splatter. Whew, and this very blurred, so it looks like it got a good chunk of the wall. My best guess is he tried to get rid of or cut up the body in his bathroom. Like tub or a shower or something. Yeah, that's man, for a law student, you're pretty damn stupid about committing crimes, dude.
If I hadn't done anything, I'd say, nope, there's no way. But you say you don't know. Why is that? Why do you say you don't know? Is there a chance that maybe something's there?
No,
Why did you say you don't know?
because I don't know.
Because you're worried about something? Maybe something that happened, that maybe something got mixed up with something and you're worried about that?
No,
Then why do you say I don't know?
because I don't know.
How would you not know? I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it. I wanted to be here with you to go through that process because I know you're not a monster, man. I know you're not a bad guy.
I like this guy.
You're just a hard-working student trying to pass a bar exam, ain't you?
I'm straight.
Show me that scratch again that you showed me earlier. That was it a. What did you say happened there?
The heck?
I think I scratched myself in my sleep.
Huh.
It's interesting
Why did he show them that in the first place? He said showed me earlier. Why would you ever show them a scratch in your belly? There's no reason for. That's weird. This guy is the definition of a terrible law student. I'm surprised he graduated.
though the detective says that Stephen showed him the scratches earlier. Stephen would later claim that he didn't consent to showing the officer anything, and that he'd lifted his shirt without permission.
You know what's crazy?
Wait, do we not have that foot? Hold on, go back. Do we not have this footage? The no consent? 'Cause I feel like that's very important legally. Looks like Stephen's racing it on his own.
Says that Stephen
Officer also has his hands on it. Officer's also racing the shirt. Stephen's definitely doing it too.
showed him the scratches earlier. Stephen would later claim that he didn't consent to showing the officer anything, and that he'd lifted his shirt
He turns around so he can see the other side as well. Still has to pull his shirt down.
without permission.
Falls down. It's good for argument, but I think Stephen doesn't have that one.
You know what's crazy? I was talking to people that he works with and everything. They talk about how he's always expresses himself.
But he don't know.
He's very talkative. Stephen, they say you're so talkative, buddy, that you're always so friendly. You stop in and say hello, and you talk. Why is it that you're acting so short with us tonight? If you have all this character and personality about you, why is it that everything that we get from you is yes, no, or I don't know?
I don't know.
If what the detectives are saying about him normally being friendly is true, then Stephen has been very careful not to give away anything verbal or nonverbal throughout this entire process.
Why are you lying, Stephen?
I'm not lying.
Yes, you are lying. How long do you continue to do it? She's got a mother and a father and a family out there that is sick over everything. Where's their little girl, Stephen?
I don't know.
Stephen, you know. Where?
I don't know.
Stephen. You're gonna look at this right here, this little girl right here, and you're gonna say you don't know? I know you know.
I don't know.
Yes, you know. What are you gonna say tomorrow when I say we got your hair with the body? What are you gonna say to me then? Because you know, like I go like that. Look at my hair. That's how easy it falls out. Look at all that on your head. You don't think none fell out? It did.
Huh.
It did, Stephen. We just wanted to give you an opportunity to tell it. So you didn't look like a monster at the end. Because you know what? I don't believe that you're a monster, Stephen. I believe that you're a good guy. You've been picked on. Girls didn't show you the respect that you deserved. You did something stupid. And I believe you feel bad about it. And that's why you're all freaked out right now. But I'm giving you the opportunity to get right.
He's good.
I'm giving you an opportunity to show everybody you're not a monster, that you feel bad about what happened. Your hair's there, man. Your hair is there. We got your hair with the body. How's that, Stephen?
I don't know.
Yes, you do know. Yes, you do know, Stephen. You did, buddy. You hurt her, Stephen.
No, I didn't.
Yeah, you did. Why won't you tell me, Stephen?
I didn't do it.
That's tough, man.
You
Tough to
take this
watch a
from
little
me.
bit.
You don't deserve to look at it.
Damn.
Just stay right here, okay?
Okay.
I appreciate all your cooperation tonight, okay?
Okay.
Stephen's lease on his apartment was up in 2 weeks. He was just about to take the bar, become a lawyer, leave Macon and return home. But instead, he's arrested that night and taken to jail.
Huh.
Undoubtedly, his unsettling behavior during questioning helped to solidify the suspicion against him. But soon Stephen would offer an explanation. In fact, just like he explained away his choice to hang around the apartments while they were searched, he would soon offer up a series of claims. None of his allegations have ever been independently verified, nor were they caught on camera, so we
Okay.
can't comment on the validity of his accusations. In a written statement after his arrest, Stephen claimed that after the reporter told him about the discovery of Lauren's torso, he was on the verge of hyperventilating and lost consciousness. Stephen said that he was diagnosed by an emergency medical technician as having suffered a seizure.
Wait.
Instead of being taken to the hospital,
If there was an emergency medical technician that diagnosed a seizure, there would be documents.
Stephen explains he was removed from the EMT's care by the police and brought to the station for his second interview instead.
This seems unlikely. And also, like, why would it make a difference? You can hyperventilate and faint because you got caught. So, I don't know how it makes a difference, but this seems unlikely that that would be true.
There, Stephen claimed that he told the police he needed medical aid, but instead, when he tried to stand, was pushed back down by an officer, pinning him to the seat. He said that he was disoriented with severe head pain, had lost sensation in his extremities,
Okay.
could barely breathe, and was suffering from impaired vision.
Okay, I see where he's going with this. I mean, it's great that you actually started to use your law knowledge for something at some point, but you're a little bit too late, dude. So basically what he's going to try to do is essentially say that he was impaired at the time of this questioning. Therefore, he couldn't consent to any of the questioning. He's going to try to put all the evidence required from the investigation into complete jeopardy because of that. However, I feel like it was too little too late, man. Let's keep reading his claims.
He went on to say that he was deprived of medical care and believed his life was in jeopardy from a medical emergency. This, Stephen explains, is why he was in an impaired state during the interrogation, and therefore was barely conscious and not
Yeah.
in control of his words or actions. If this is true, it would put anything he said into question.
it would greatly diminish the validity of the evidence that could have been recovered from the interrogation. It's smart, but it would have been even smarter if you didn't talk to him in the first place. But it's like I said, that's way too late to start using your knowledge. You kind of froze up, and backpedaling doesn't help you here, especially if it's all lies. Cops will know if it's a truth or a lie. If the cops know it's a lie and it's not on tape, ain't no way they're gonna let go of that.
Of course, Stephen would have had a lot of time between the interview and his later arrest to come up with a well-thought-out lie to explain his odd behavior. Still, it's important to note that Stephen's symptoms also sound like a panic attack. With this accusation in mind, it's impossible to know if his catatonic-like state was the result of a real medical emergency, or if it was an attempt to manipulate the interrogation so he didn't have to give any answers beyond yes, no, and I don't know. As a law student studying criminal law, Stephen would know just what kind of information the officers would be trying to pry out of him, and exactly how to avoid giving anything away. Within this statement, Stephen...
Okay, no, you're giving him too much credit, because the way that you avoid giving anything away is not being questioned. Like, you are giving him more credit than he deserves on that freaking front.
Shows just how deeply he understands the law, writing that when police and prosecutors can only obtain evidence and convictions by violating people's rights and testifying falsely, and when courts ratify such misconduct by the refusal to exclude evidence when the testimony of police, true or false, unmistakably shows that a fundamental right has been violated, the entire system of criminal justice becomes a sham. Finally, he ended the statement with, "My words may go unheeded, but the truth in them will remain, even if no one listens. Who will guard the guards themselves?" However, contradicting Stephen's allegations of being mistreated, an officer wrote in their own statement that though pale and zombie-like, he was offered food and water or anything else he needed, but he said no and mostly just stared into space. In this case, it appears to be his word against the officers. Soon after Stephen's arrest, troubling evidence was uncovered that solidified the police's suspicion. An ex-roommate of Stephen's during his undergrad came forward and told police that when he knew him, Stephen would often ask people how they would commit the perfect murder, starting all the way back in 2007.
That is a very common law school game, for the record. But if it matches what he did, that is very, very troubling. Playing that game does not mean that you're a killer. It just means... This is actually something that our professor used to do in first year when we were taking criminal law. He would ask us, how would you do the perfect murder? And we would all get wrong answers. And he would tell us why we were wrong. And it's a very interesting study because, to be fair, like, I don't know. It's very interesting to me that they played this game because it's something that we do in law school, and it's actually a class dynamic. That's interesting. So if his response matches what he did, though, oof. It's tough, Stephen. It's tough.
He would then share his own ideas on how to commit the perfect murder,
Let's hear
including wearing shoes that were too small, cutting his hair, and using things such as chloroform to subdue a victim, specifically a female victim, and use chemicals to get rid of the smell of the body. He would then drag the body to a bathroom, since tile and linoleum was easy to clean, and cut up the body in the bathtub. Finally, he would place the body parts...
Hey, I called that earlier. When I saw the wall, I said he probably tried to cut it up in the bathtub.
...in black plastic bags, hide them among his laundry, and sneak them out of the apartment or house so he could distribute them over a large area. Remember these specific details and the fact that Stephen was discussing this 4 years before Lauren was killed, because all of this becomes sickeningly relevant later.
You don't fuck
Understandably,
up,
the roommate was a bit disturbed and would joke that he needed to lock his doors at night, to which Stephen replied that it wouldn't matter since he would pick the lock, rush in, and chloroform him. People who knew him reported that he had a history of breaking and entering, including stealing small items from other people's rooms and apartments. If you recall, Lauren believed that someone had been in her apartment but didn't have any proof.
Right.
She was likely right, but didn't know that it had probably been Stephen. Another person who knew Stephen during his undergrad told the police about his plan to commit the perfect murder. He said that when he discussed it, he spoke with intense passion and added that Stephen would always say there were two ways to become famous: be a movie star or a murderer. Could this be the reason
You can also be a YouTuber. You don't have to go all the way to murder, man. There's different ways to do it. What are you doing?
Stephen couldn't help himself and spoke to the reporter, knowing that he was the one who committed the crime? Had he been seeking fame, or at least his 15 minutes? The fact that Stephen titled his plan The Perfect Murder is another indication of his grandiosity. Regardless, it's clear that murder is something that he had given a lot of thought for a long time. Murder could have been an escalation of his breaking and entering behavior. Perhaps his desire to kill was even part of the reason he enrolled in law school. He wanted to learn how he could get away with murder. Once again, Stephen...
You don't have to go to law school for that. There's a Netflix series for it, man. Watch that before Netflix takes away access to your mom's account, you know? Well, I guess you can't do it.
His creepy posts online revealed just how much he'd been thinking about death. Not only was he making comments on message boards just 3 days before Lauren's torso was discovered, right around the time she was killed, but in discussions about survivalist shows, he talked about cannibalism.
Okay, so I'm probably going to cut off a lot of what I just saw. There's like some posts that he wrote online that are pretty gross and pretty graphic. I don't want to play that in my channel. You can watch the full video if you want that. But it sums up to Steven's a very perturbed individual. I don't know how much of that I caught out and how much I included, but that's the way it is.
Stephen often talked hypothetically about how he would try to get away with murder, not only to
Onto
those who
this.
knew him, but online as well.
Fuck.
In one post, he spoke about what he might do after committing the act. He claimed that he would sit on the ground and just rock back and forward on the ground, eyes wide and blank. He wrote, "I'd remain in this state for at least a day. No talking, no communication, blank, unfocused stares. I do not fall asleep either. Eventually, when some new stimulus is introduced, a family member I haven't seen, a picture of my brother or something like that, I shake my head from side to side, blink rapidly, and look around in a panicked manner, asking where I am, what's going on, if my family is okay, why I'm there. And when they ask, I'd say I had no memory of anything. They'll probably initiate charges, at which point the family will need to get a lawyer to argue that I had no knowledge of my actions and were not acting of my own volition when I acted. Keep the story consistent, and whenever I'm asked about what happened, I look down and put a sad look on your face, relating what I was told happened, as you have no memory of it. I might end up institutionalized for a while so they can try to figure out what caused the blackout. But if I stuck to the story, it's doubtful I'd end up in prison." He ends his post with, "Of course, this is all hypothetical." Sounds unnervingly familiar, doesn't it? With all of this in mind, it's apparent that he contemplated an insanity or lack of capacity defense at some point before Lauren's death. In law school, students learn about excuse and non-culpability defenses, and his thought pattern generally follows along the same lines as a Manhattan defense. Under the Manhattan rule is generally adopted in various forms by many states. To be found not guilty by reason of insanity, the defendant must be laboring under such a defective reason from disease of the mind as to not know the nature and quality of the act he was doing. Or if he did know it, that he did not know what he was doing was wrong.
Right.
Georgia has slightly modified the rule with the addition of a possible verdict of guilty but mentally ill. Stephen may have attempted to establish this sort of defense.
Yeah, so essentially what that can be summarized as is whenever we're talking about criminal law, the main element of it is called the mens rea, Latin for a guilty mind, which essentially means whether or not how your intentions are going into an act, how conscious you are of it. Did you meditate it? Did you premeditate it? Did you know what you were doing? Did you know it was wrong? All of these go into establishing the guilty mind. But one of the arguments and defenses in most of these cases is that you don't have that ability. You can't tell right from wrong. You can't tell what's good and bad. You can't tell what you're doing. You didn't think about it. You don't even know what you're doing while you're committing the actions. And that is his defense. It's a plea of insanity, basically, by a mental illness. I don't know if I buy it. But yeah, looks like that's what he's going for.
When he claimed his odd interrogation behavior was possibly related to a seizure.
Right.
He did his best to push this narrative passively with his yes, no, I don't know answers and strange behaviors in interrogation. Still, most attorneys would understand that this is not enough to meet the burden of proof for insanity or defect of reason.
Yeah, no, in fact, you would have to have professionals testify and do an evaluation on you to determine whether or not you had these things. It's like a half-ass prepared response, basically. Like he planned it ahead, but he didn't do extra research, and he just pooped the bed, so to speak.
It appears that when Stephen realized neither of these arguments would work, he then used the statement to focus on trying to prove Fourth and Fifth Amendment violations.
And that's what I was going with when he does the thing where he's trying to say that he did not consent to things. But again, if you really wanted to make those things claim, one, you shouldn't have let them go into your apartment, and two, you shouldn't have what's the thing? You shouldn't have even talked to them. Period. That's how you defend your Fourth and Fifth Amendments right there. Force them to get a warrant, force them to talk to your lawyer. This is just like last minute scrambling.
Steven, I came got you tonight because they'd asked a few more questions.
The interrogators attempt to question Stephen, but he throws a wrench in their plans.
I have nothing to say without my attorney.
Oh, look who decided to be a law student.
You don't want to hear what we have.
I want my attorney.
Unlike the last time he was in front of the officers, Stephen invokes his right to an attorney, begging the question, why didn't he do this before? It's impossible to know what he may have been thinking, but given his bold news appearance, maybe Stephen was so confident that he would never be caught, he truly believed he could beat the system. He may have actually requested a lawyer here because he was facing a bigger and much more real threat. In the first interviews, he likely felt relatively safe and therefore more confident in his abilities to defend himself. However, now he has just been arrested, so the stakes are higher. News sources would report that Stephen went to the police station voluntarily, but in a written statement, he claimed that he submitted to the demands of the police when it came to him staying at the station and showing the officer the scratches on his body, claiming that, quote, in neither instance was my consent a voluntary act. It was a submission to police coercion.
Looks like you've been putting on a little weight in there, man. Dude, I'm just talking casual, not about anything right now. You can feel free to talk. You want anything to drink or anything?
No.
Even when the officer takes a more unique approach, talking about Stephen's beard that has been growing since he was arrested, he doesn't budge.
I wish I could let mine grow out, but they won't let me have one working here, man. Has it reached that point where it started itching yet? See, if you don't...
This is actually very stupid. This is actually very stupid on behalf of the police officer. Because he's trying to get him to talk regardless of what he already said. And this is how law cases go out the freaking window. You should never do this. The second they invoke their right and they're making it count, shut up, let it drop. This is probably not going to affect it because otherwise it wouldn't be on this YouTube channel. But this case could go really sour if the officer keeps pushing after he's already been told that he wants to talk to a lawyer. This is very bad. And here's the thing. This is a dilemma that I go with a lot. There's camps, two different camps on this matter. There's people who feel like officers should never, ever do this because obviously it can make a case fall. There's people who feel like, hey, he clearly did it. Screw how they get the confession. Get that confession. I'm torn between that sometimes, but on this case, like, man, you already have him. Don't mess it up. I don't know. Let me know in the comments. That's one of the biggest dilemmas that I feel sometimes in conflict as a law student, whether of how far police should be able to push or not.
You don't feel comfortable with me talking, man, just let me know. I'm just trying to talk casual with you.
You already did.
I have nothing to say.
Yep.
Eventually, the police gave up and returned Stephen to his cell.
Good.
At some point after his arrest, the police got a search warrant and took a sample of his hair, a buccal DNA swab, and fingernail scrapings from Stephen. This evidence would be used to seal his fate.
Fun fact, it's been tried to argue that that could be self-incrimination. Some people tried to argue that before. It's been told that no, using your own facial DNA samples cannot be considered self-incrimination. You are forced to give your DNA samples and stuff like that.
But it wasn't the only evidence found, as much more disturbing things were soon discovered. During a more intensive search of Stephen's apartment, 2 keys were uncovered. Comparing one to Lauren's apartment key, it was found to be an identical match, meaning that Stephen had a key to her place without her knowledge. The second key was determined to be a master key for the entire apartment complex, which the apartment manager later identified as the one she thought she had lost 3 years earlier. But the keys weren't the only damning evidence found in Stephen's apartment.
That's rough.
And soon investigators understood why he'd been so hesitant to let them in. They found a flash drive that belonged to Lauren, filled with hundreds of her photos, along with evidence that Stephen had been looking at her Facebook and LinkedIn pages. Beyond that, authorities uncovered a pair of Lauren's underwear in Stephen's apartment. As disturbing as all
for somebody who claims that he's got this master plan to do the perfect murder, he really is very bad at hiding evidence. Like, you're just collecting evidence against yourself. What are you doing? This is so stupid and sick. I don't even know which one's more annoying to me right now.
All of this was, it was the discovery of a deleted video that really sealed his fate.
Oh boy.
Stephen had a wooden pole.
The real crime? PlayStation gamer. Fatal stuff.
Discovery of a deleted video that really sealed his fate. Stephen had a wooden pole with a camera duct taped to one end. He used this contraption to record Lauren within her apartment from her window. The deleted video appeared to have been recorded the night she was murdered. In August 2011, after a month in jail, Stephen McDaniel was charged with the murder of Lauren Giddings.
Right.
This wasn't the only thing Stephen was charged with, however. During their search, police found even more disturbing evidence on a flash drive belonging to Stephen. Sickening and inappropriate images of children. As well, in online posts, Stephen commented encouraging messages under fictional writing featuring inappropriate and disturbing acts with children. He was then charged with several counts of exploitation of children.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
As the evidence against him grew to the point where his silence and denials were no longer cutting it, Stephen decided to take a plea deal in 2014. The plea, which would allow him to avoid the death penalty and drop the charges of child exploitation, required him to describe exactly what happened to Lauren on the night that she died. In a statement, he admitted that he had a master key to the apartment, but he didn't clarify when or how he stole it from the apartment manager. He used the key to get into Lauren's apartment around 4:30 a.m. on Sunday, June 26th. He was wearing gloves and a mask when he walked into her bedroom and stood over her as she slept. The floor creaked under him, and she woke up and saw him. He said that Lauren sat up and calmly told him to get the fuck out. Stephen leaped across the bed and grabbed her by the throat. She struggled to get away from him, even tumbling onto the ground together, but Stephen managed to keep his hands around her. Still, as she tried to get away, Lauren reached up and pulled off Stephen's mask. As he strangled her, she managed to say, "Stephen, please stop." But he continued to hold on to her for several minutes, maybe as long as 15 minutes, until Lauren finally stopped moving. He then dragged her body into the bathtub and left, going back to his own apartment. As though he hadn't just committed an unthinkably horrific act, Stephen spent the next day in his apartment on the computer before going back to Lauren's with a hacksaw around midnight. He began to dismember her, wrapping the body parts in black trash bags before discarding them in the Mercer Law School dumpsters while it was still dark. Besides her torso, the rest of Lauren's remains have never been recovered. It's possible that when Lauren awoke and spotted Stephen in her room, he impulsively decided in that moment to kill her. That could explain why he then left and didn't come back until later to dismember the body, as he wasn't prepared to do so right after he killed her. Lauren waking and catching him may have unhinged this sense of control. As well, this sense of control may have already been unhinged by the fact that she was planning to move away so soon, which would bring an end to the relationship he may have felt they had. It doesn't seem like a coincidence that Lauren was killed just days before she was due to move. Along with this, there was one other thing that may have influenced the timing of the attack on Lauren. She had just sent her dog to live with her parents after graduation so that she could focus on studying for the bar. Stephen may not have wanted to break into her apartment if her dog was there, as barking would be a dead giveaway. He may have felt more comfortable after the dog was gone. To complete his efforts to hide the evidence, Stephen cut up the mask, gloves, and shirt he was wearing and flushed them down the toilet in his apartment. Many of these details are hauntingly familiar, except for the chloroform. It appears that Stephen executed his plan to carry out the perfect murder. Well, not so perfect actually, in the end. The cover of the hacksaw he used was found in his apartment, and the hacksaw itself was reportedly found in the maintenance room of the apartment building. Ironically, the officers were able to enter the maintenance room using the master key they found in Stephen's apartment. The hacksaw still had both dried blood and tissue on it. It eventually matched Lauren's DNA. Stephen also made sure to note in his statement that he never assaulted Lauren and that he still managed to attend his bar prep classes on the Tuesday and Wednesday after killing her. However, fellow law student David Whitmire contradicts this. There was a scheduled study group at the law college on Monday, June 27th, the day after Lauren was murdered, and Stephen missed it.
Was he even at class last week?
That's a good point. I tried to tell somebody and they wouldn't listen to me, but he missed Monday.
Okay, and you know that for a fact because you were there.
Oh, absolutely. I know.
So he wasn't there Monday.
No, and he showed back up Tuesday, and so he walked in, and I asked him. I said, "Well, you know, where have you been?" And because he doesn't miss, and so and he said, "Well, he didn't feel good. He'd been sick." And I said, "Well, what were your symptoms?" And he said, "Well, I didn't feel good. I had a scratchy throat." I said, "Do you have a fever?" And I thought this was odd, but it's just Stephen. He said, "I don't have a thermometer." And I thought, there's not a 25-year-old single male in the United States that owns a thermometer.
Yeah.
What may
28 and I don't have one. I want one. I should really have one. I don't have one. I don't know what that says about me.
be the most baffling of all was that Stephen struggled to clarify why he murdered Lauren at all, and yet still displayed chilling self-awareness. He wrote, "It's difficult for me to explain why I killed Lauren. The difficulty in explaining it lies in my own inability to understand it myself. I know that it was very wrong. I'm not delusional or without morals or decency. Yet I acknowledge that something in my makeup, my psychology, my neuropathy, my own particular pathology perhaps, must explain it. But it's beyond my reach. Lauren was my friend." In his statement about his psychology, neuropathy, and pathology, Stephen basically admits that he meets the exact definition of an individual who poses a hazard to society. Both investigators and Lauren's family have shared their doubts about Stephen's statement, saying that he had a lot of time to prepare the letter, and there were many things omitted that he might never share. Lauren's sister Caitlin has stated that she doesn't believe anything he has said. Stephen McDaniel was sentenced to life in prison. During a retrial in 2018, he represented himself and again made the claim that he had not consented to the search and that he was coerced by the police.
The real Fick Bundy over here. Yeah, don't represent yourself. It's very stupid. Anybody who's had a law degree, gone to law school, should tell you that.
Before, during, and after his interrogation. The appeal was denied, but the story doesn't end here.
Oh boy.
As recently as May 2022, Stephen filed a habeas corpus petition, alleging that his imprisonment is unlawful because he had ineffective counsel when he first pled guilty. There is yet to be a result released in this filing.
All right, so there we have it. That's the whole thing. I don't think the last claim will have any standing whatsoever. I don't think it's gonna. Well, I shouldn't say standing because it's a legal term, but I just think it's gonna fall. And yeah, man, it's an interesting case for sure. Seeing a law student in that situation, somebody who should know better too, making so many basic mistakes like consenting to a police search and like taking the interrogation with the cops. Like that's pretty crazy. it was an interesting video. So let me know what you guys thought. If you enjoyed this, let me know in the comments. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to watch. Make sure you check out Explore With Us. It's a great channel. I probably won't include most of the video here because they do analyze a lot of the body language and stuff like that. I didn't want to go into that. I wanted to focus on the legal side of matters. And yeah, it was interesting. So if you like that, like and subscribe. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.